Hi class, we're going to take a quick look at basic operations, and here's the idea on evaluating these expressions. Now, if you have a different way of doing it, that's perfectly fine. But I'm just going to show you on the addition, we typically use vertical form. And for some of these problems, it's expected that you're showing your work and no calculator is being used. So for example, you would be placing the 40, then the 12, then the 17. And the idea is that you're placing them in a format in terms of, well, the magnitude. So you're lining them up in accordance to place value. And then you're just adding vertically. Keep track if you happen to carry a value. 7 and 2 happens to be 9. And then 4, 5, and 6. So the answer for the first one, it's going to be 69. So I'm just going to write it as this is 69. And let me box that answer. So the basic idea is that you're showing work as you're displaying the solution for these problems. Let's take a look at the second problem, and it's also a sum. So I'm just going to carry the work here, and we're looking at 123 342 and then 1094. Okay, and then remember that this is a sum. So let's begin by adding the numbers vertically. So you're gonna get 6 and 3, it's gonna be 9. And then 9 and 4 is 13, and 2 would be 15, but we have to carry 1. And then on the third column, that's going to be a 5, 3, 4, and 5, and then a 1. So I'm getting 1559 for this one. So 1559. Let me fix this 5. And that's actually it. For addition, if you have another way of displaying it, you're welcome to use it. Let's move on to subtractions. So in this case, we're going to do problem 2a. And then let me just rewrite it. So we're going to use also vertical form. So this is going to be 1416 minus the values of 18. Some of you may be able to do this in your head, but technically the basic idea is that you're showing work. Now, this is a subtraction, so we're going to have to use the idea of borrowing. And in this case, well, as you're subtracting, you cannot subtract 8 from 6. So in this case, we're going to make this a 0, and this is now a 16. So now you can carry the subtraction. 16 minus the values of 8, that's going to be 8. And then as you go to the next column, well, we have a problem because since we borrow, that's now a 0. So in this case, we have to borrow again. This is now going to become a 3, and this is a 10. So as you do the subtraction, 10 minus 1 is equal to 9. And then 3 minus, technically there's a 0 here and a 0. 3 minus 0 is 3, and then 1 minus 0 is 1. So let me check this one to make sure that no errors occurred. But I'm getting 1398. No, we're good. So this is going to be 1398. Let's take a look at a second problem. So this will be 1102. And we're subtracting 124. And we're gonna run through the same problem. As you line up the actual digits, you cannot subtract 4 from 2 without going into negatives, but then we have a bigger problem. So to the left there's a 0, you cannot borrow from the 0, so we're gonna have to go to the third column. So in this case, this is gonna be a 0, this is technically a 10, and when you borrow again, this is going to become a 9, and this is now a 12. So at this point, you can carry the subtraction. 12 minus 4 is equal to 8. 9 minus 2, it's going to be 7. And then we have to do another borrowing on the next digit. So technically this is now a 0, and that's a 10. So 10 minus 1 is equal to 9. And let me check this one because I just made a mess. So this is equivalent to 972. Okay, before going into the next one, let me check it. So that's going to be an 8, 7, and then a 9. The last one cancels out. There's a 0 here, which I should have wrote it. It would have been easier to visualize. So that's actually it for subtraction. Once again, if you happen to have a different way of doing the subtractions, you're welcome to use it. You will be required to show work for your calculations, especially on exit examinations, if a calculator is not allowed or expected to use. Okay, let's go to the next set of problems which deal with multiplication. So in this case, let me just double check. Yeah. In this case, I'm going to line up the problems in the following format. So this is going to be the values of 12, and technically you're multiplying by 14. And then you start the multiplication by multiplying 4 times these two, and then you have to keep track of if you have to carry any values. So in this case, as we carry the multiplication, 4 times 2 is equal to 8, and 4 times 1 is equal to 4. That is the end of the first iteration. And then the next step would be multiply by the 1. Now, you do have to keep this extra space for the units. So 1 times 2 is equal to 2, and then 1 times 1 is equal to the values of 1. And then let me add them. At this point, you're adding. So this is going to be an 8. This is going to be a 6 and a 1. So I'm getting that this multiplication is 168. Let's go to the next problem. And in this case, we technically have two numbers being multiplied first, and then there's an indication that a third one is multiplying. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to carry on the first multiplication. So this is going to be the 621. We're first going to multiply it times 12. So 2 times 2 is equal to 2 times 1 is equal to 2. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. And 6 times 2 is equal to 12. And let me put a 4 here. And then don't forget the space. And then multiply times 1. So you're going to get 621. At this point, this is 2. That's 5. That's a 4 and a 7. So 7452. So this is equal to 7452 times the values of 14. So we're actually not done. We still have to carry on an additional multiplication. So let me display that one here. So your first multiplication was just for the first two values, 621 times 12. And now that answer, we're going to multiply it times 14. So in this case, this will be 7452 times the values of 14. And let me carry on the multiplication. So 4 times 2 is equal to 8. 5 times 4 is equal to 20, and you carry 2. So 4 and 4 is 16, plus 2 is going to be 18, and you carry 1. And 7 times 4 is 28, plus the 1, it's going to be a 29. And let me take a second look at those values. 8, 20, you carry 2, 16 and 2 will be 18. And 28 plus 1 will be 29. Okay, now we're going to multiply times the 1. So you're gonna get the 74, 52, and now we're gonna add. So we're looking at 8, 2, 13, you carry 1, that would be a 4, 9 and 4 with the one that we carry, and then 7, 8, 9, and then a 10. And let me check the sum. So 8, that's a 2, 13, you carry 1. Let me just write the one that we carried. So 9 and 1 is 10 and 4 is 14. You carry another one. So 7, 8, 9, and 1, 10. Okay, so our final answer is 10, 43, 28. Okay, that's actually it for this one. They're rather messy, some of these problems, if you're not using a calculator. But remember that the main idea is that for some of the problems, they do want us to show our work. So our final answer would be 10, 43, 28. I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to put the commas. Some problems on the homework, if you put the commas, it'll mark them as incorrect. So they just want to see the digit without the commas. Okay, let's take a look at the last set of problems, which in this case, they're going to be requiring division. And some of these in a later section, they may say, no, we just want the actual decimal approximation instead of carrying on the long division. So on all of these, you have to look at the instructions, how they want it. Here, I'm going to do the long division. So technically, the 2 goes on the outside and then the 9 on the inside. So the proper way of doing, or not the proper way, but one way of doing would be you're looking for which value you multiply times 2 that is going to give you a value of 9 or close enough to 9. And in this case, it'll be 4. So 4 times 2 is equal to 8. And then you carry a subtraction. 9 minus 8 is equal to 1. This last value will be your remainder. So in this case, you're going to write your answer as 4. So this will be 4, remainder of 1. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Once we talk about fractions, there's going to be another way of viewing it. So let me just put it with a different color. So in that case would be 4. And technically 1/2. But we'll talk about those fractions later. Let's take a look at the last problem here. And we're technically looking at the values of 11 and 128. So as you try to do the division, I'm just going to select the first 2 values. So it'll be 1. 11 times 1 is equal to 11, and then we carry the subtraction. So that's going to give us a 1, and then technically a 0 here. At this point, we drop the next value. So that's going to allow us to carry on the division further. So once again, it's going to be another 1, and then our remainder is going to be 7. This one, I'll just write it as a remainder. So in this case, I'm getting 11 remainder of 7. I still have like a couple of seconds, so I can actually write it. So this will be 11, 7 over 11s. That would be our answer as a mixed number. Okay, that is actually it for this one. The video recording is going to shut me off in a little bit. I'm just checking the final answer, but we're good.